Welcome to You Won't Hate It, where we look at life through the lens of pastors at the length of a cigar. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Joe.
And today we're starting with a mom destroys her daughter's...
Actually, Ryan's got a story for us.
Oh, do you have a story?
It's about a mom destroying her daughter's.
Nope. You're going to have to wait, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, that's the tease for the next story.
It's under opening banter.
Okay. No,
it's
you're
all
right.
under there. I didn't list any
You're
of
right.
those.
We are starting like an hour late. 90% of it is my fault. I was late, and then it threw everything else off. And I didn't get to add this. And then I was going to add it last night, and then I thought, you know what? I want to spring this on you guys. Because when I first heard this, it's a miracle, okay? And I want to, it's a possible miracle.
Okay.
I want to hear your take on it. And I want to talk about miracles just for a second, because I think I have been more and more taken back by and intrigued by this. This was a thing for me in the past, but the kingdom of God is not about words, but of power, right? Like, that's a big deal, especially for people who talk the whole freaking time. That it's like, hey, it's not about words. Obviously, we still can talk, but there's a power that we're supposed to be seeing, I think, and experiencing as Christians. This is a really old miracle, but it sent me down a fun path. So, roughly 18. I'm going to get the numbers a little bit goofy because I've heard different reports from different people. I went down a rabbit hole for about 3 days about this. So, roughly 1853 in New Mexico. They built a chapel or a cathedral. It's kind of in the Gothic style. It's super cool looking. I actually want to go visit it now with the whole family because I got everybody super into this. They built this chapel, 1853 roughly. The guy who built it, the architect, great guy. It's a 2-story. It's got a loft, like a choir loft, except for he passed away before he got the staircase from the floor to the loft finished. So the problem is it's a really narrow kind of a space. It's kind of, the interior is laid out very weird. He didn't leave any plans to how he was going to finish the staircase. So these nuns, it's in Loretto, so it's called the chapel in Loretto, and the nuns of Loretto Chapel were like, we can't get up to the choir loft, and so we can't use it, and the space would fill up with congregants, so they had to be up there, so it just wasn't working. So they're like, we got to get this done. So they went and got a bunch of bids, and every architect that came back and every contractor that came back said, we can't, there's no staircase that we can build that wouldn't take up most of the congregation. Like, the staircase would go out into the congregation, so you'd lose a lot of seating. So we can't lose seating. We need it. They go round and round nothing. They can't figure out how to get this done. The nuns of Loretto decide we're going to do a 9-day prayer vigil time. That's not a vigil, but a prayer time where they say we're going to pray for 9 days. We're going to ask Saint Joseph, the patron saint of carpentry, which I think is hilarious.
Is he carpentry?
Yeah, I only know.
I thought he was because Lost and Found. Go ahead.
That's Saint Waldo is the patron saint of Lost and Found. So they just realized, if you're Catholic, we're not making fun of you, by the way.
No, you are.
I'm not. I just think I think we're joking about names and stuff.
If you're Waldo, you are.
Yes.
So on the 9th day, at the very end of their prayer time, they set aside these 9 days. At the very end, a knock on the door happens. An older gentleman with a very small little toolbox on a donkey rides up to the chapel and says, hey, I'm here to build your staircase. They're like, prayers are answered. This is amazing. They said, we don't want to take up the space. And he goes, no, I got it. It's fine. The only thing I need is to be left completely alone with nobody seeing me for, I think it was 3 months. They're like, yeah, we don't care. Like, you cannot watch me work. They go, sure, whatever. We don't give a rip. 3 months go by. The staircase is built. They're like, that thing is insane. It's a spiral staircase that is a double helix that is like mathematically pretty perfect. That's a double. It's called the Miraculous Staircase now is what it's called.
Gorgeous.
Are you looking at it?
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely breathtaking. He builds the staircase. They're like, this is amazing. We want to throw you a banquet as a thank you for the town. We're going to invite the town. It's a really big deal for the town. He disappears. He vanishes, gone, never to be seen again. They're like, we need to find this guy because we need to pay him. Like, he did all this work, so we've got to pay him. They take ads out in the newspaper to try and find this guy. They canvass everybody trying to find him. At their wits' end, they go to the local lumber yard. It's the only lumber yard around that he could buy lumber at. And it's a hefty amount of lumber. They go to the lumber yard, and they're like, hey, there's all this wood. You heard about our staircase. Like, who did you sell this wood to? And the guy goes, nobody came and bought wood for that. We didn't sell anything for that staircase. We have no idea what you're talking about or who this guy was. Then they basically get other people to come in and study it. Modern architects have gone in. A ton of people have gone in. It's a pretty perfect double helix. Mm-hmm. It has no metal nails, no metal screws, no glue, no fasteners whatsoever. It's wood and wood alone with wooden pegs that hold it together. This is a pretty ancient Japanese.
I was going to say Japanese architecture.
But the problem is that's not Japanese architecture at all. It's not anchored to the floor. They don't understand how this thing is holding itself together with the strength that it has because there's no center pillar. So spiral staircases that you usually just basically have a huge metal beam that goes right through the center. Everything anchors to that. So it's anchored to the floor, anchored to the top, wraps around that. It doesn't have a center post. It's floating. It's literally barely sitting on the floor, and the thing is solid as a rock, and it's 250 years old, roughly.
Wow. No
metal fasteners whatsoever. Then they hire some guys to come in. This isn't too long ago where they're like, we need to figure out where whoever this guy is got the lumber. Like, what's the deal? So they do all the testing. It's a type of spruce that is not found on Earth. We don't have a spruce tree that matches this wood. That doesn't exist. They said the closest relative we can find is a tree in Alaska. This church is in New Mexico in the 1800s. And I'm like, okay, let's say it was the tree in Alaska. How the heck does he get this type of material? There's no way he gets that material.
In 3 months, had to shipped in. Nobody saw it.
You can't, it's not even really possible, to be honest with you. So this thing, of course the nuns of the church are just like, oh yeah, no, that was
an angel.
That was Saint Joseph. They really think it was Saint
yeah.
Joseph himself who came down and built it.
Well, now we're in bad theology. But go ahead.
No, I know, but this is what's funny. And other people say, it was an angel, whatever. Tell me what you guys think about that story. This, by the way, Joe Rogan even talked about this story because it's gotten big in the news again. And Joe Rogan, who's obviously not a Christian, brought it up because he goes, what the heck is this thing? Like, what's the deal? Like, he's blown away because anyone who has an answer for it, I mean, literally, I actually haven't heard people argue that it's not a miracle because the Catholic Church is like, oh, yeah. It's, the Catholic Church is like super normal with miracles.
Has it been venerated by the Vatican?
So it is considered a relic. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
They do call it a relic.
Okay, that means you can worship it.
Yes, but I don't understand that there was some confusion there just
you
from
have to
my
work
side.
your way up the steps.
Yes, you have to pray your way up. Then people get weird because there's 33 steps, and people are like, "That was how old Jesus was," and I'm like, or the number of steps it takes to get up. Like,
He was also a carpenter, and he rode in a donkey. I mean, I can make all the I can make all the Jesus.
So people have made all of those connections. Yeah,
right.
People made all of those connections.
So his dad sent Jesus. He's like, I'm kind of busy. And Jesus is like, you're not my real dad.
I got one more job for you. Okay, you got to do just one. So what do you guys think when you hear that? What's your...
I think it's fascinating. I would love to see it in person, but my question's why? Like, why would... If it is a miracle, signs and wonders and miracles, like I said, I've been reading through Acts, it's all to proselytize, to promote, to bring glory to God. So my... why really in prayer would be, God, why wouldn't you do this in a church that wasn't already worshiping you? Like, why would you?
I'm sure that church has drawn so many people.
They have
because
roughly
this.
250,000 visitors a year.
Yeah.
For the
Oh,
staircase.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, I'm sure.
Any of those miracles like that, they draw pilgrimages to them.
And even
What's
still-
funny is I think Ash and the kids and I will go see it.
Yeah.
Just the architecture alone, I would seriously encourage you guys look up the Miraculous Staircase just to see it.
Yeah.
The work,
Loretto Chapel.
Loretto Chapel. I am an above average woodworker and carpenter. I actually think I'm not amazing by any means, but I'm pretty good. I don't think I could do that with the modern tools that I have. With all the machinery that I have, I do not think I could make that. And the guys that have come in and seen it since all say the same thing. They don't think they, like, we're talking about architects. I don't think we could recreate this today. It's got a bit of a vibe of
me
like
see,
the
Josh.
pyramid vibe.
Sure. Can you see that?
It is
It's gorgeous.
one of the
That's all
prettiest
wood,
things
huh?
there is not a metal piece in that thing.
I think I did see something that over the years they've reinforced and updated it with some metal or some string or something. Stringer, I don't know what they call it. Some carpentry term.
They do? They did?
Something like that.
Oh, I'd like to see that. Because I went down, I was looking at this for a long time. I didn't see anything like that. There seems to be a piece that's off the side that does not look like it's part of the original thing. And so I started to try and figure that out. Then I stopped. But because there is something on there that looked like it was added.
Internal stringer. What's that mean?
An internal stringer? Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't actually make sense at all to me.
What's a stringer?
So that would be a reinforcement that would run through the whole spiral that would hold it together.
Wow.
Which, if they put that in, that's super interesting because how'd they do that without hurting the stupid thing? But anyway,
Yeah.
I'd like this. And they very well, there's a crack at the bottom, which Ashley and I were both like, oh, that's so sad because it cracked. But it's wood.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
eventually
cool.
it's going to
Actually-
expand and contract. And
I think the crack is cool.
yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
what do you, so you hear that? Because I had a lot of reactions at first until I was like, all right, let me look into this first.
Yeah, probably the spruce not being a species on Earth. The architectural part of it obviously is pretty
Yeah, it's very
amazing,
cool,
draws
yeah.
attention. But something that you can scientifically prove is not of this Earth. Even you're like, but it probably exists somewhere. But the fact that this person was able to attain it,
Yeah.
all the parts of the story feel they can be fabricated. So that's what I start with. Can they have actually said a guy, don't look at me work for 3 months? You'd be like, no, that could be lied. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
all this fabric. You get down to the material. Now, obviously, you know about architecture and structure, so you can be impressed with that. Where I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
But you get down to the wood is kind of the clincher for me. You're like, okay,
The source and everything.
yeah, that's the part where you go, that's pretty. And I'm actually more prone to believe miracles, but if I'm being critical about
Yeah.
it, like if I'm looking at it to see,
Yeah.
like, to evaluate it critically, I would say that would probably be. And for me, like when you're looking at acts, like they always have to have a purpose. I've never been like that with miracles. Miracles to me are events that supersede the natural order, and God's also fun. So God's also like, yeah, like because here's my thought: all the miracles that Jesus did that weren't recorded, like they weren't recorded, like meaning like they were pretty epic, amazing moments of the Son of God, and God's like, yeah, we don't need to write one.
But how do you
Like like nobody knew. Like
how do you know that?
how do I know what
That he had all these miracles that were amazing.
John, the end of John says it.
Just
If all the
simply
things he
saying
did.
that if all the things he
Yeah.
did were not recorded.
So I'm always like, meaning like, so there are things God did that didn't get a neon light saying, look at this type of a thing. So that's all. So I'm like, I can believe it. And there are things that God does in our lives that we would deem as incredible or even miraculous moments that, again, I don't know. All that to say is, I don't think God doesn't have to explain himself to me to do miracles. If he wants
Sure.
to do miracles, he can.
Sure.
But even that was said in a place like that, I already knew if that is being deemed a miracle, millions of people have
Yeah.
been impacted by
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So all that to say is, I was on board right from the beginning. Like I'm a yes, I believe it's a
Yeah.
miracle. But the part where I would really bank on would be the species of the spruce.
Yeah.
That's the part I'd say.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to deny.
That's definitely the one that finally, because all of it, I thought the same thing, is that like there's probably been brilliant people all through history that were beyond what we think was capable of the time. You even have stuff like the pyramids. You have architecture that still is tough to explain to this day. The funny part is if that staircase were like 2,000 years old or 2,500 years old, that would be different for me, because I was like 250 years ago. I'm like, I mean, we knew architecture pretty well, like the Gothic era, and that architecture is insane.
Right.
And so there was a piece of me that was like, it was probably an amazing carpenter that probably felt called by God.
Could have been a savant.
Yeah, that felt called by God, which is just as miraculous to me. Like the fact that, I mean, and this is the part where I wonder about the miraculous in this way, because like you said, we've all experienced some cool, and I'm like, that distinction of miracle, because when I first got saved, I read scripture and came to the same conclusion Josh did, which was miracles have a purpose, and that purpose is always to show that Jesus is the Son of God and bring people to him. Then and I'm not saying you're wrong, because that's literally where I landed.
Sure.
But then I started realizing, wait a minute, that is what Jesus used those specific miracles in Scripture for.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that John says he actually did this other stuff too, but we didn't record it because that's not part of this narrative that we're painting. Like each one of the Gospels, the Gospel author had a very clear purpose. So he didn't need to put a miracle that didn't prove Jesus's deity in there, that Jesus maybe did for his friend or for someone that he just met on the road, because it was like, that wasn't part of the story that I'm telling about Jesus.
Right.
And so I kind of moved to, I guess he could do it. Then I thought, I was healed of asthma as a kid. I was a little kid. I had horrible asthma, could not run, I was done. My parents' Bible study prayed for me. One of the guys in the Bible study and I think my dad both saw lungs that were filled with something, and that stuff went out of the lungs. Like like an x-ray of the lungs. They both had a vision of it. They got done praying. They said that, never had a lick of asthma again. I mean, it was literally, I had an inhaler. Couldn't run that day forward. And I'm like, that wasn't to bring a bunch of people to the Lord. That was so that I could run.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like,
how do you run now?
Well, okay, so I stopped running. I prayed about it.
I think the problem is with you and I, all of our stories are defeated in the fact that we became pastors and we tell the stories. So I would have said the same thing, like being like healed lactose intolerant.
Sure.
That was just for me, except for the fact that I've told it from 9,000 stages.
Sure.
Do you know what I
And
mean?
it has allowed me to... It's allowed me to pastor differently, probably. You know what I mean? Like
every argument I want that is not for a purpose, I can't find. I mean, because I want to be like, God just loved to do it, and He did.
Sure.
But it could be both.
So,
But then those people
that
that it happens to, guess what they end up doing?
I agree with what you're saying. I think I'm meaning that it doesn't fit the narrative, the purpose of the narrative that one of the gospel
I
authors
agree.
was
Even
saying.
like,
That's all.
even like when it happened with the lactose intolerant, I wasn't planning on being a pastor in the moment that happened.
Absolutely not. Dude, I was a child.
Yeah,
Pastoring was not part of my
healed me.
world. Yeah.
I wasn't influencing anybody. But then at the same point, I wonder if people who experience miracles, they can't help but influence people for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Sure.
It'd be hard
I
not to.
I wonder if that ends up just being like the natural part of a miracle.
Much like almost every single person that he healed in the stories in the Gospels, they told it their whole town. You know what I mean? They went home and their lives were changed. So
Could it end up being the result of a miracle as opposed to the point of it?
Yeah,
Or a little bit of both? Can it be messy?
Working all together.
I think it's the purpose of it, and you're like, maybe that's too strong of a word.
Because at the time you're like, oh wow, okay, it's gone, cool. I can do athletics and not get winded, or I can eat cheese. I don't know how you feel about lactose intolerance. But
I
it's
like that one was I can run and not grow weary. It's totally biblical.
Yeah.
The other one's I can eat cheese.
It was just me with a big wheel of cheese. It's like,
he still died from eating just cheese.
It's still very unhealthy.
Like, I'm thinking back, I'm like, I was adopted. I was like, that's a lottery. I mean,
you're right.
And working all things together, it's like I never thought I'd end up where I am now, but I have. So it is.
I mean,
interesting.
you're adopted into a musical family.
Musical, God-loving.
weird.
Yeah, it's
That's
kind
a
of crazy.
crazy combo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weird.
So
I mean, you don't know about the other 9 Korean kids who couldn't sing before you. They didn't tell you about those kids.
Yeah.
that's sad.
Next.
I am.
That's sad.
I love the story, and I'm serious. Ashley and the kids and I think we'll go see it at some point because I'm so intrigued
I'd love to.
at the beauty of it. Like it would just be
I
fun.
have a photo of the original staircase. So they did add a railing later on.
Yes, they added that railing.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Not
It's it's literally
Actually, without the railing, I don't know.
it's legitimately like a
Without the railing, it
Like-
looks even more of a marvel.
it's a DNA double helix, like kind of weird.
I love all the nuns being like,
This is
hey,
just wild.
we're trying to find this guy who's going to pay him, like, and ask him to put a railing on it.
So what's really
Because
funny
if you see it without the railing, it's kind of terrifying.
is for a while. So originally, every other architect that went in said the only way up is we'll put a ladder, and the nuns are like, we're wearing what do they call it, a habit?
Yeah.
The nuns are wearing a hat. Like we're not going to climb up the ladder in our like our get up. So it was the whole thing. He makes this, and then they said at first most of them would crawl up on their hands and knees because
yeah.
they were terrified.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's not even a center post to be able to grab onto to
nothing.
walk
Well,
up.
and
floating.
also,
It's just floating.
Also, the clearance between the
Yeah.
second level and right here, you'd have to kind of crouch down.
Isn't that crazy? It's
The descending, can you see in that picture? The descending would be terrifying stepping
gosh.
on the
I
descent.
can't imagine.
No, I would just hang off of it and then drop down.
Yeah, no, it's pretty scary. It's what they say, 22 feet tall. That second story is 22 feet.
33 steps, 2 360 helixes.
That's crazy.
That's amazing.
yeah.
No, without the railing, it looks way cooler.
And the way especially when you look at like the bottom of it, how the bottom is smooth, and I'm like, who resawed
It's gorgeous.
wood in that shape in order to attach to the bottom? How do you back then resawing wood is insanely difficult.
The siding, the paneling here is just
That's what
It's
I'm talking about.
gorgeous.
So the underside, you have to cut thin sheets like this. Like they're really thin. They're not big, thick boards.
Right.
So he's taking a normal sized board and slicing it long ways to where you're cutting off, like it's not quite veneer, but it's probably a quarter of an inch at most, maybe an eighth inch.
And he's doing it by hand.
He's doing it by hand.
So here's my
in
question.
3 months.
That's crazy.
Well, here's my question. If it, bear with me.
No, I'm with you. Let's do this.
If it's an angel, why did it take 3 months?
Why'd it take 3
Yeah.
months?
right.
So I have thought about this a lot. I think that on this earth, most things are still bound by the physical law. And what I mean by that is that even Jesus' miracles, I think we've talked about this on here. I think that when Jesus like grew that guy's arm back, I don't think it materialized out of thin air.
Right.
I think, all theoretical, I'm not saying this is truth, I'm saying this is just theory.
Clay of the earth.
I think he told his cells to reproduce the way that they had. Like, I don't think it was outside of the physical realm. I think he knew he knit everything together anyway. He created atoms.
But he would need more mass. So I guess
No,
you could do
no.
blood loss.
No, you wouldn't need mass.
Because you could take blood and manifest.
No, because your cells are already always dividing.
But they're
Constantly.
yeah,
but they are
But he wouldn't gain more weight though.
they are
'cause by-
dividing from a source of nutrients.
Sure.
So it could have been
Absolutely.
You would need because you couldn't just gain weight like scientifically. Forget
Right.
miracles. I'm just saying like say it's his arm's another 2 pounds. Where did that 2 pounds come from?
Well, in the same way that the energy that it takes to grow your fingernails, that's all he's doing.
or heal from an injury like a scab
To
or
heal from an
something.
injury. I think all he's doing is telling those cells to divide. It's also kind of funny that every time I ever see that, like a depiction of that guy whose arm grew back, he's always in great shape.
Oh yeah,
Everybody
Yeah.
in his Bible is very fit.
Oh, they are.
And I was like,
very hungry.
Pescatarian. A lot
or
of
he's
pescatarians.
laying down for years and he's out of shape. So he has plenty of fuel to burn.
Yes, right.
But anyway, that's just a theory.
He
is
got
that
his arm grew back and he got a 6-pack because it took what was
Exactly.
what was
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
It's
it's like liposuction.
or another
reworked it.
example is like when Luke recorded that Jesus placed the ear back on the servant after Peter slashed it off.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it's like Luke is a physician. He
Yeah.
would record that because
Yeah.
he's like that's odd.
Yeah.
I'll record it. It's not in the Johns, but it's in Luke's, and I thought that was interesting.
I still think it's a miracle. I still think it's considered a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's, or I wonder, I don't know, but it is a theory I have. I think it might be that he is using the physical realm that he knows how to wield anyway. He works with things on the atomic level. So even parting the Red Sea, all the
Incarnational
miracles.
ministry from God is normal. Jesus became a man, right? Like, meaning like God could have done it from heaven.
Absolutely.
Or
He
it
chose to do it on
could have
earth.
been too that this man,
33 years.
this carpenter, his whole life in carpentry, and was just praying, Lord, I want this to be for a purpose, to glorify you. And God inspired him and provided him with the experience,
Absolutely.
and worked his life in.
Yeah.
it.
Weird that guy then disappeared.
Right,
And that there's no
receipt for the lumber or anything.
Yeah, and that my thought is like, is there any other staircase around ever that's looked like that? No. And so that guy went on to never do something like that again.
Yeah.
Like most carpenters become known for a style.
One-hit wonder.
Right, it was like, this is like Frank Lloyd Wright's first
Lloyd Wright.
thing, and now you
Yeah.
can find it all over New Mexico.
Sam Maloof is a really famous furniture maker, and he has a style in a rocking chair that is like
He doesn't talk to most people. He usually comes
he's
across
very
as
aloof.
Nice.
He's and so like you become known for a style. If you're at that level, you will be known as that guy. And so the fact that like that never pops up anywhere in architecture again,
It is
that's
interesting
crazy.
that there's this kind of subconscious, like this pure humility. Doesn't want recognition. I mean, don't come in and ask me my process. Just 3 months, I'm out. I don't want anyone to know who did it.
So knee-jerk reaction:
Human or angel?
Saint Joseph, angel, or human? Knee-jerk reaction.
Mine's easy.
I'd say St. Joseph or Angel.
Okay.
I can't choose between those two.
St. Joseph is in purgatory. Couldn't have done it. Is not as great as what he says. Sorry, Catholics. I'm just kidding. Angel, mostly because of the manifestation of the wood.
Yeah.
But that would be the thing, is where did the material come from? I would think it's more
Or he
angelic.
could have had it. It could have been a guy who had it from Alaska.
Yeah, like he got it 2 years ago, and now that
But they
tree,
never
What do I do with
that
this
tree's
wood?
gone extinct now.
They've never saw
And
it.
so he's
didn't see
praying
it
about it.
shipped in.
And maybe the wood was really
Yeah.
old and aged. Like he kept it well.
Exactly. There's
So it's super strong.
you can. This is the thing with miracles that is tough for me. We can explain anything we want away. In the sheer fact that Jesus did miracles with zero explanation other than that guy did a miracle.
Yeah.
And still the Pharisees and a ton of people were like, nope.
I mean, it's the
Right in
same
front
thing
of them.
with Moses.
Right in front of them. They saw the arm grow back.
Yeah.
They knew that guy had been blind his whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They knew that guy was crippled at the pool.
Yeah.
They saw it all happen and still
Chills.
that is mind-boggling. Because I'm like,
It's the human condition.
it's the human condition.
Like some some of us are just born to believe everything, and some of us are born to doubt everything.
Which is I think a tool that the atheist will say is that like that's just your personality is prone to believing this stupidity anyway. So
And
now
you're trying to convince them, no, I'm actually kind of a skeptic, and they're
Yeah,
like, I don't believe you. I'm like, no, I really am. But
Yeah.
it's kind of funny that like I don't normally believe things. Whenever people open that, doubters always go, you're kind of a sheeple.
Yeah.
They always think you're a sheeple
Well,
they
because-
wouldn't believe it.
Well, and here's the hard part that I think is a funny realization that I've heard a lot of apologists use recently is that I don't care how much of an atheist you say you are or how much of a skeptic you say you are. There are so many things in your life that you believe
can't live
in
it
faith.
out. Exactly.
Yeah.
That part is so like you believe so, but you don't think you do.
Yeah.
But every single piece of information that we hear from any outlet in the world, we have not researched ourselves.
Yes.
No matter how many books you've read, you don't know the author of that book. You don't know the research they did. And so it's like, and then there comes a point where you go, you're right. We have to choose where we're comfortable with our level of knowledge, our level of research. And at some point, I actually really enjoy a very intellectually honest atheist that's like, oh, I accept a lot of things by faith. That's just life. You have to.
Yeah.
I just don't accept the big universal stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's the part where I struggle. And I go, Thank you. Thanks for just
It
being
could be
open
the syntax of just the word faith alone.
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
right. You're right.
For
Yeah,
some
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Where do you land? So I'm angel.
Yeah, it's either a fish, either a fish did it.
Or a loaf.
My knee-jerk reaction when I first heard it is, oh my gosh, this is awesome, just because I love stuff like this. I really think miracles are like what life is about. I think they're so much fun.
Right.
I pretend to be a massive skeptic.
Yeah.
I love everything that, like, and this is weird because I'm not Catholic, but I respect the Catholic's process more than I could ever explain. They have done... They hire
Outside experts. all the
countless
time.
people.
Yeah, not Catholics. They
have the budget for it.
Which I don't want to get into that because that's where I struggle. But I am so moved that when they venerate something, I'm always like, oh, wait a minute. Now I'll look into it because that's incredible.
Which was a show in the 80s.
That's right. I was really excited at first. Then I went, hold on, let me think through all the stuff. What if it's a guy who really, and even from the religious side, I even thought like, some really talented carpenter was a Christian and felt called by God. You know how God speaks?
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I just feel like God's telling me to go build a staircase in Loretto.
And he'll show me how.
And he'll show me how when I get there. So
He'll
even
provide the
divine
wood.
revelation. Yeah,
He'll provide the wood when I get there.
And I thought through all that. And so I really do think there's a possibility that it was, because I think God uses humans a lot. And so there's either that, and the dude was probably a great carpenter to begin with, but got a genuine revelation to build this staircase in that way, or angel. So I think either way, it's an absolute miracle in my mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't die on the hill of what it is.
Totally.
But I would definitely say, like, I think this is a miracle with the scales on the yes side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'd be. I'm like, this isn't like the one I'm like, there's no way it's not. But I'm like, but if you're asking me, and somebody said, do you think it's a miracle? I'd say yes.
And the reason I think about the why is because it is something that seems so satellite to the Gospels and everything that we have learned and that we preach and share. So if I had an atheist friend and we go, hey, come check out this staircase with me, God made it, you know,
Dude.
and he's going to be like, that's amazing. Where was this wood from? Oh, they can't find it except, 2,000 miles away. Wow. How is that God? Like, it's like, okay, well, it makes you talk, it makes you think about it and maybe dive into the word.
The fact that you're asking me if it's God
The
makes
fact,
it God.
yeah, right. It's just,
I always like to make fun of those, but they're kind of true still at the same time.
Yeah.
You're always like, duh, but you're like,
Yeah.
but it is
happening.
it's still stirring conversation.
It is still doing it.
I think the fact that it's in a church so that people could continue their worship and like worship properly, I'm like, that's kind of that's not everything,
Right.
But that is something to me because I go, yeah, that would make sense that God's like, my people are faithful and they're trying to worship me, and they ran into this problem. I will solve that problem. Not to be dumb, but it's similar years ago when we were like, dude, we're out of money.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do. How are we going to keep the doors open? We either take pay cuts and basically have to get full-time other jobs while this becomes our part-time job. What are we going to do? I think it's genuinely miraculous that somebody steps up and goes, I got it. And I'm like, huh? And then
in a meeting we didn't want to be a part of.
they put us back on our feet to then God comes through. And because I'm like, that to me is a people that are trying to worship God. I'm not saying we're doing everything right, but we're a group of people who are trying to honor and worship God and introduce more people to God.
Right.
And I think God honors that. I think God says, absolutely, I want you to continue.
Yeah.
This is part of his will, so we're in it.
I just like the thought of Saint Joseph, angel human guy, showing up and be like, hey, before I start this, why did you build a loft that you couldn't get a staircase to?
Yeah.
Just, I'm done. I just had to say it, and now I'll begin.
I'm
Leave me
more
alone for 3 months.
shocked that it's 22 feet high. That's actually really tall second story. 22 feet is crazy high. And the original architect, the guy who designed it, like, what was his plan?
Yeah.
Right.
Because it wasn't in the plans. He built the second story, died before he could build the staircase, and there's no record of how they expected to get up there. So what the heck was his plan?
Is this still a
very
functional
tall
church?
ladder.
Is this still a functional church? Do they still do services there?
That part I do not know. I know
Do
that
they allow people to walk on the staircase?
So
Probably not.
They have 250,000 people. So it's just under 1,000 people a day.
They have a website. Loretto Chapel.
Which is a lot of people, to show up every day. So I don't know what they're
It's a
doing.
nice photo. Pretty cool. Alpha and Omega. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And the stained glass, like in the archway.
It's pretty beautiful. The structure of the church, this Gothic, is so cool looking.
I love
It's all sharp.
Gothic
and, yeah,
cathedrals and all that
Gothic
design.
is so cool. Did you ever see? Quick side note before we change subjects completely. Have you ever seen Gothic restorations?
No.
So they've been doing a bunch of Gothic restorations. So in your mind, when you think of the medieval, the Dark Ages, Gothic architecture and stuff, don't you picture dark, musky, very little color, low saturation? Isn't that what you picture?
Yeah, but stained glass.
So, but stained glass.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out the structures were gorgeous, bright, and vibrant. They started doing restorations of Gothic stuff.
When you
and
start
they're
to clean them, you see the colors underneath them.
like bright, vibrant colors. And I'm like, so just because that's, you grow up seeing it's dark and dingy.
Yeah.
Even in the medieval dark ages, we're not dark in terms of architecture and color.
Wow.
Vibrant and beautiful.
They are open
Interesting.
every day, 9:30 to 4:30 p.m.
Wow.
Except on Christmas Day.
Oh. Anyway.
Which is
That's
weird
cool.
because you think Christmas Day service would be amazing.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is one day.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's super fun. I think miracles are neato.
Yeah, the church that I was at in Spain when we were looking at stuff, they claim to have one of the vats that Jesus turned water into wine, and it was just up on the wall. Like,
Wait, small?
Wait.
no,
Oh.
Yeah, the big.
I was going to say they
stone.
were huge.
Huge,
That's why I
huge.
was like up on the
But it's
wall.
just-
scooped wine
but
out
like,
of
is a
them.
part of the church. It's right there.
Not
Like,
fun.
I always thought that was interesting. Not like big straps or like things to protect it. Like,
glass case around it.
no, it's that one. They had other ones that I think had like replica ones like next week. That one.
Did
right
anyone
there.
try to pour water into it?
No, they
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
In my head, that can't be real. That's my with that. I'm like, there's no way that's the act. You can't keep a clay pot for more than about 10 years before you break it.
Yeah.
But then I go, why not?
But if Jesus turned water to wine in that pot, does it make it like indestructible?
Oh, well, then where are the other ones?
And it is
Somewhere.
massive.
The
by
Nazis
way.
got them.
Yeah, the depiction in Scripture is that it's really
Yeah.
big.
I mean, like
huge. Yeah.
humongous.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
enough where you think like, yeah, you could. I'm guessing the weddings were huge. You'd be like, yeah, that's enough wine in there for a ton of
Filled
people.
with liquid, it's like that thing. You're not moving it.
No.
That sucker's a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, without liquid in it, it's probably weighs God knows how much.
Oh yeah, that's insane.
So funny.
Has anybody ever done a Moses turns the Nile to blood, Jesus turns the water into wine?
You mean
some
like
sort of
him versus
comparison?
the sages and the or
Yeah,
Egyptian?
just kind of the white to the water to red, water to blood. I don't know. Just
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I never thought that before. I'm like, huh, got kind of similar stories. I wonder if there's a link there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Be fun.
All right. Well, let's go to the next story.
What do we got?
Oh, this is regarding a mom destroys teens. I don't know who this is. Olivia,
Olivia.
Rodrigo's
Yeah.
records.
You'd know her songs. They're
Have
popular.
you ever destroyed your kids' stuff? Would you ever? And have your parents ever destroyed yours? In regards to honoring
So
God.
basically, the story is one TikTok. The girl went on and she's like, "My mom broke all my," because she was doing vinyl, like your son's into vinyl.
Yeah, I couldn't
Because there
imagine.
was cussing on there, and then the mom is being filmed praying over the broken records, praying for Olivia Rodrigo.
This makes us look bad.
Yeah.
This
And
is sad.
Now the girl defends her mom in another video because people are like, "That's abuse," and she's like, "No, my mom's great. I love my mom. We're fine." Eventually, the mom pays for the records and they mend. She felt
What?
bad for breaking it later on. After a while, I guess
Forget
this was like
looking bad.
later
That's just
conversations.
wrong.
I don't like that the kid filmed it and then posted it. I don't like
I
that.
don't think she thought it was going to be so negative. She was defending her mom. She's like, "Okay, my mom's just
Sure.
How did
she's
she
like-
not think it was going
And
to
the
be
girl's
negative?
like,
That's my question.
and the
How
girl's
did
like-
you not think that was negative?
and the girl's like, I believe in God. She goes,
Yeah.
my mom and I just see the Bible differently. She said
Yeah.
in her posts.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting dynamic. So anyway, so it just got me thinking, mom hears some of the cuss words and then takes it and breaks it. So my first thought is,
Take it. and
have
break
you
it.
ever taken any of your child stuff, or would you ever, and break it? Like, and if it's a yes, is there something you're like, I'd break that?
Yeah.
What is is there anything that would escalate to that level?
What about all your illegitimate kids? Is there anything that has been in their life?
I mean,
that you've
other than the
disapproved of?
broken relationships.
Yes. You're
Did your parents any
you're
take of your
disapproving.
double music and break it?
You probably listened to devil. What about a bong or something? Did your parents ever find a bong?
They probably found a bunch of stuff
But never broke it?
or trashed it, maybe, But
You don't remember it?
I don't remember a lot of it. No, I can't think of. No, it was more conversation as opposed to like, because it's like if it's on the merit of the value of words, and like if it's like profanity, right, and it's music, resorting to violence would not have been their answer. They would have been like, "Why do you think this is good to listen to?"
Do you ever remember them getting like livid, furious, yelling at you?
Yeah, because I would
Okay.
be livid, furious,
Okay.
yelling at them.
Okay.
That it would just be.
It makes me feel better. I get scared when people are like, my parents never yelled at me. I was like,
Oh
no.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't even comprehend raising my voice to my parents. I got yelled at a lot, but that just wasn't the dynamic that I grew up in.
I think you need without emotion. I'm like, it's more sad at that point. I'm like, there needs to be some legit emotion in parenting.
What is the phrase? If your parents don't correct you, the police will. Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's one. How about I have more questions. So
Yeah.
how about you? Parents ever did it? Would you do it? What would it be if you were going to be
You
like
shared
yes?
about burning something, right? Your tapes.
Oh, he
or
chose
something?
himself
So
to do that.
I did that
Oh, okay,
myself,
okay.
like an idiot.
Yes.
Grew up fairly religious. My dad was saved going into prison and had some amazing spiritual experiences to where they were quite religious. My dad coming out of that world was way more lenient on anything and everything because he was insane when he was younger. Like the amount of fights and just criminal activity that he was involved in, I'll say lightly.
So you don't want to be a hypocrite.
Yeah, and so anytime I would get in trouble for doing something, he was pretty chill. He was actually, half the time, he'd crack jokes about it. I think that's what actually gave us such a good relationship. Like, one time I took my friend's car, I think I was 14, 13, took my friend's car and just was tearing around the neighborhood and pitched it around a turn. I had a girl in the car with me. I was trying to impress her.
Of course.
Because I grew up in a racing family. I pitched this car around the corner, popped the clutch, stab it, and this car moved in a way that I'd never felt before. Come to find out it was front-wheel drive, and I'd never driven a front-wheel drive car. Everything we had was rear-wheel drive. So it popped out of the fishtail in such a funky way, and I pile-drived it into the curb and snapped the wheel, broke the axle, destroyed the car. Cops come, literally helicopters like surrounding. Somebody called in a hit and run. It was like at 2 a.m. So they thought I was some criminal.
You're 14 years old at the time.
Yeah, maybe younger. And they finally get me. I look 20. To their credit, they were just like, so we're talking, and so obviously I have to call my dad. I call my dad. I'm like, hey, this happened. I explain everything, and he goes, okay, like he's fine. And I go, so do you want me to come home? And he goes, no, I want you to go park cars, you dumbass. Of course I want you to come home. And so at that point I was like, okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
So he was always kind of like that. My mom was pretty heartbroken by stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they had a million conversations about the stupid stuff I would do. They never religiously were that oppressive in that way. My mom was quite guilt driven. It's that Armenian Jewish
Orthodox.
Yeah,
Okay.
that vibe has a lot of guilt in it. I don't think they did it on purpose. They weren't purposely guilting. The best intent. They had the best intentions
what they
in the
knew.
world.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I would never do that to my kids. But it is interesting that I'm like,
You find a bong in Shepard's room.
yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, the amount of times that we've talked about drugs, pornography, those types of things, if I were to find that, I would hope to God I keep my cool. I
And
think
then confront them with it as opposed to just throwing it away.
Right.
out of that reaction is genuinely, it's out of fear because you're like, oh my God, I'm losing my kid. Like it's that type of a fear
Yeah, get
response.
this thing out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope there'd be a conversation. I couldn't imagine actually breaking the thing.
You'd make them break it.
Yes. And then, so if it's like an animal that they brought home that I didn't want, I'm like,
But a bong, would you make them break it?
I don't know.
But then it'd be like a really expensive one and it doesn't break.
Right?
Yeah.
In my head, no, because it seems almost like emotional warfare. Like it seems like I'm trying to scar them, and I feel like it would scar them more. I don't want to do that. I actually would rather if I can keep my wits about me, which I don't do all that well. My temper's a little goofy, and so I if I don't allow myself to lose my temper, hopefully there's this discussion of like a dude, let's get rid of it. How do you want to get rid of it? Leave it up to them. Like, do you want to just throw it away?
Do you want to shoot it?
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to shoot it? So I would be surprised if I ever got to that point.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I haven't been faced with it, so I don't know. What about you?
Because I didn't grow up in a religious home, but my dad did have like moral lines, like where the ones he drew. So when I had early days of having a mullet with spiked hair and lines in the side of my head,
Wow.
he sat me down and then just took a razor to my head. So that'd be like
funny.
kind of one of the equivalents to just being like, yeah, that's done. We're taking
was
care of
fun
that
for
right
you.
now. Yeah. So he's like, nope, bzz, take care of that.
That's funny you say that. I did something crazy with my hair once, and my mom drugged me into my dad and was like, "Look at what your son did," and they made me get it cut, but they didn't cut it. I feel like that does feel scarring.
Yeah.
To be like somebody else forcefully cutting
military.
your hair.
It's like,
Yeah. It seems crazy.
When my dad saw my first tattoo when I was 15, he punched me in my tattoo. So it wasn't destroying it, but it was kind of that same idea of like just really disliking my decision making type of thing.
Yeah. And he's right. It's a bad tattoo.
I'll do it with friends. I'll slap the tattoo.
That's right.
Seems mean.
Christen it.
Floyd just got a new one. If you didn't notice, Floyd is not with us. He's at a conference in Atlanta,
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Down south.
Yep, North Carolina.
But he just got a new tattoo. He just finished
He's
his
speaking at the conference too.
Men of Valor.
Yep. All these, I talk a big game, but I really do think it would just create a conversation. But we're not going forward with him having a bong.
No.
Like that's
No,
not that's not happening.
Sure.
There will be decisions made at that point, but we're not going forward with you having a bong.
What do you do? This is both your kids are out of the house. I guess they're still kind of on your dime, though, huh?
They're definitely on my time.
Yeah, not kind of.
Yeah.
They're 100% on your dime. So I guess that's different. But what if even now, them being out of your house? Because I think the easiest thing is while you live under my roof, you kind of have to follow the rules that I've established.
While you're on my dime.
Does it switch to that for you? What if you were to find a bong in Jake's room?
Same conversation, being like, that's not happening here.
That's what it would be. Like
Yeah.
we're not doing that.
Yeah, I love you. You can be an adult
Yeah.
and you can do adult things, but that's not happening here.
Okay.
Like, that's not something that I think is good for you that I want to support.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So would you pull funding from your child's schooling?
I think that's the wrong move.
Okay.
I feel like there's other. I think that's relational nuclear warfare. I think there's other things you can talk through without having to go down that route.
I think if
But we
there's-
built that. Some people, that's all they
Yes.
have. They're
Right.
like, we got to go. That's it. DEFCON 5. We're nowhere. We're not at DEFCON 5
Yeah.
with him. You know what I mean?
And it's
Like,
also weird to be like, I'm going to hurt your future. Like the
Right.
reason
Right.
you're in school
Right.
is to better your future. I'm going to hurt that to help you in the present. And you're like, well, it doesn't make sense to hurt your future for the now.
Yeah.
So finding a way around that. But
we'd have a conversation
Yeah.
about it. And,
what if he, and I hate doing this, but you're the only one with kids in college.
He's 21 also, so the other part is thinking that this behavior is legal in California.
Right. And so if he's like, sorry, Dad, this
Or
is just,
decriminalized.
this is just what we do.
Yeah.
Like, what's your
well,
move?
ironically, that is hurting his future anyway.
Yeah.
Sure, but like, what's your move as a parent to parent adult children?
Yeah.
To be like, what, like,
Part of that is again goes down to is like, what is it? So we're talking about if is he missing class? Is he, is it like, so now
Everything
I
else is
find
fine.
now I find a bong and he's a straight A student. I find all these
Yeah.
things. Now it's just a conversation about which we've had already.
Yeah.
About the idea that drugs aren't good for you, but it's not this idea of not going to pull fun. I want him to get a degree.
right?
I think it would just be literally measuring his response and talking through it and talking through why he'd be doing that. I'd even assume I'm not even assuming this is his.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I think we start with what is this? What's behind it? What's going on with that?
Right.
How do you ask him how he's processing that? How this is going to affect his life. So just all those really normal, honest conversations.
Yeah.
And if he gets down to it, he's like, I just want to smoke weed for no good reason.
Yeah.
And if he says to me, he goes, it's legal. I'm not breaking the law.
And clearly, I still have my life together.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
doing this. I'm holding down a job, let's say. Like, everything's fine.
That would be one of those things where I'd say, for me, I'd just be praying for him.
Yeah.
I'd say, I still
yeah.
love you. I'm not bouncing on you.
Yeah.
And we'd just be like, what should we do with my kids now as adults? Like, that's not
100%.
something we agree with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I still would support you getting an education, getting your master's degree, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I agree. I don't know how that helps him.
Right.
To not help him get a degree.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
And by the way, all that could be different than what I would say when I'm actually in the moment.
Oh, I know.
This is just
Right.
like,
Yeah.
because his response is what you're working with.
Yeah.
Right.
That's and I think that's what and I hate that this is my my first reaction usually is a quick little temper loss. It's not insane. The problem is a little bit of voice raising for me is so loud to my family. So it's like a little terrifying to them. When to me,
your family's loud, which means it's really loud.
But that's what's hard is that to me, it's pretty normal. I'm already dry and sarcastic, and then when I get loud, it's just harsh.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm not even that mad, and they're like, how is that not mad? And I'm like, honestly, I just am, I'm a little upset.
Yeah.
But then it's their response, which then kind of sends it over. And even in those times where I feel like I've lost my temper, I always go back and mend the relationship. And I'm like, oh, I got a little too upset. And then I explained but I got upset because you rolled your eyes at me. Do you know how disrespectful that feels as someone who is providing for you, as someone who loves you deeply and is just wanting the best for you and is
I've heard this 1,000 times. Oh.
and it's and I'm just suggesting something that I think will help your life. And
They're
then you
quoting
roll
him while
your
he
eyes.
says it.
Yeah,
It's respectful.
it's true. It's true.
If I found a bong with one of my kids at the age of your kids,
Yeah,
very different conversation.
Yeah.
way different conversation.
Right.
Very different
Yeah,
conversation.
I'd be far more in the breaking it stage now.
Oh yeah.
Just because that's right now it's probably very harmful for them. Yeah. Whereas at your kid's
Probably.
age, it's probably, it's definitely less harmful. Not that it's not harmful at all. I
Yeah.
think it still is.
There's no way around
It's
22
night
and
day.
12.
Night and day difference.
Like nobody's parenting the same way.
any
at those,
age below 25.
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
which we've had that
development.
conversation too.
Right. Right. I think what you said, you're not going to DEF CON 5 right when you see it. I think if there's, from experience, when there's an established pattern, so you have one conversation, hey, bud, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed and I'm concerned, and then month goes by and you see something else, some other paraphernalia. Hey, we just talked about this,
Yeah.
and you're grounded or X, Y, and Z disciplines, right? And then over, it's just this still continuing pattern. You're noticing that they're not really pouring into the future of their life. It's really more just for in the moment, for their own pleasure, their desires, no longer obedient or respectful of the household or the rules. And then it gets to a point of all right, now we have to make a decision.
Yeah.
And that's what was given to me, and it was what was necessary at the time.
Yeah.
And it was an ultimatum. If you want to keep doing this with your life, go.
Right.
Bye.
Right.
Which is so hard for a parent.
Oh, our relationship now is just, again,
Horrible.
that's just
Ruined.
Yeah, it's worse.
But they still have his bong.
Yeah. Well, they're in Idaho now, so
Yeah. They have glaucoma. What do you expect them to do? They're older.
he has insomnia.
Yeah.
Every time I call you guys, I hear.
Oh, it's the
Hey, what's up, Josh?
It's the network.
Wow, why is my dad so relaxed all of a sudden?
And it's just they've told him that it was months of meeting with their friends who. Flint Anderson, who's with the pain organization,
Yeah.
and meeting with them and counseling them, kind of like Al-Anon, and just giving
Flint
them.
he's the guy that did the auction at the Whiteout.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the
Yes.
same guy.
Yeah, and so that sort of thing where they needed guidance and counseling from someone else who's involved in that and experienced with it, and it took them literally that support to have the kind of the foundation and backbone to go, our son is either out or we can take him to rehab.
Yeah.
So it does get to that point, but it was never take the door off the hinges,
Right.
break
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
nothing like that.
And to be clear, none of us have found this with our kids. I know we
Right.
talked about it so
Right.
deeply,
Yeah,
so theoretically, but no, we did not find a bong with
It's
my
all
son.
theoretical
We're
that- yeah.
just
Right.
theorizing.
Which my kids started school today or a few days ago by the
Nice.
time you hear this. That is the weirdest I hate it.
Officially junior high, right? Or was it 8th grade? What's Shep?
Shep's in 8th grade.
So he's
Shep's
his last-
Yeah, so
last-
he's his last junior high. Eli's 5th.
King Dipstick.
I don't like my kids going to school. I've realized it stresses me out. They're both great. They couldn't wait to go back to school.
Which school is he going to?
I don't want to say on the podcast.
Yeah, okay. Good
It's
point.
Too weird.
That's weird.
It is weird.
But junior high, elementary, they were so excited. They're pumped, like full of confidence, and I'm like, that's awesome. They're so happy. I hate because you spend all summer where you see each other every day. You're hanging out most of the day. Like it is so fun to have them home, and now they're gone. And I'm like, I think every year I realize more and more I don't like putting my kids in the hands of other people. I don't like someone else because they spend more when it's school. The bottom line is they spend more time with their friends and their teachers than they do with me.
People don't realize that at all.
It's shocking.
It's like once your kids start school, you are now the low percentage of effect.
It's like
on-
a full-time shift.
Yeah.
8-9
It is
hours away.
It is the reason why you prioritize that being healthy time with your kids
Yes.
when they're not in school. Because I'm like,
Yes.
it's a very low amount.
Yeah.
Like you're literally just starting to become. It's funny, time wise, you're less of an influencer, but actual impact wise, you're a greater influencer.
Quality over quantity.
Right.
Yeah, you really are. Even that small amount of time. Do you also not like the idea that you're shuffling them now? Like you in the summertime, now you're like, get up,
Yeah.
eat breakfast. Did you finish your homework? Get out at nighttime. Are you doing your
Yeah.
homework? So now you switch roles into kind of like the always
Absolutely.
prodding them. To, let's
I-
go. Let's do this.
The nag, like that nagging vibe, is the worst thing to me, like that you can be. Humans, I hate when somebody nags, but I feel like a nag so often. I'm badgering them, like, did you do this? Make sure you did this. Did you check your grades? And then, I feel like a bad parent all the time because it'll like over a week will go by before I go like, hey, do you have any missing assignments? Right. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh crap, can we look? And then we look and there's like 2 missing assignments, which brought his grade down. And I'm like, so you gotta make these up, and then I need to I gotta stand there to make sure you're doing. Like I hate doing that. I hate being that. It's weird, but I also hate more being like a stay-at-home dad who does homeschooling. Parenting is brutal. Let's just say that.
Yep.
Parenting is weird and difficult.
And Jake did not have a bong. So just in case that wasn't clear.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
That was Jade.
was
But
framed.
Jade did.
Did.
Yeah.
And Shep.
Yeah.
All right, what's our next question?
We have Promise Keepers rebranding. Do we want to go to that? Do we want to go to a winger? What do you?
Promise Keepers rebranding is them deciding to. It's funny. The opening thing is like all the things they weren't going to be. They're going to be all about Jesus, not politics. They're going back to like we're about politics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
This is the era that I see Christians getting involved in politics more than ever because it seems like more and more people have had enough.
Well, there's more and more influencers of pastors saying you're a bad Christian if you don't.
Yeah.
That's the unique twist. That group that's like you should be involved in politics haven't had platforms, and now they do.
But that was in the 80s and maybe early 90s. The church was very political.
That's what I'm saying. Like I just think the difference is
That's gone out of fashion, and now it's coming back.
yeah, and I think that giving them like social media space to be like.
Yeah.
Because they're getting those churches are
Is that
growing.
why you think
I do.
it's making a
I
resurgence?
think because you get a unique listen. We know churches in town that talk politics grow.
Yeah.
People
Hard line. People love the hard lines.
people want someone to say that culture is wrong. They want to hear all about how bad culture is. So and those there's a bigger niche, and by the way, a generational older niche. People with money who are established that want to give and tithe the churches that are talking about who to vote for
Yeah.
and what's bad.
I wonder, I really do wonder, and this is not a slam on any of the churches or anything. Sometimes I wonder if that is because we become so self-centered that I really want to hold on to the money that I've made. So I become very conservative. And then I'm so concerned with that I want my church and everything else to be so conservative to where we have conservative values that I can keep I don't know why, in my opinion, and this is the sad truth, it all boils down to money. I'd like to say that it's a moral standard, but I think if if you feel like your money and your security is threatened, it's the same thing we always. It's like follow the money, and when you do when you're looking at something, I just feel like we are
Romance and finance, man.
I don't
you
understand
can't serve
why.
God and money.
I don't understand why being involved in politics isn't enough for Christians. Why can't you just say, like, I am super conservative. I really do care about where my government spending goes and how
Absolutely.
it works, and I don't like culture. There's so many outlets that will scratch that itch for you, or saying, like, here's who to vote for and here's what to do.
Oh, as opposed to bringing it
to
into
the
the church.
Like, it's not like I have no other place to. No, you absolutely do. There's a million people that share your views in the political arena.
Do you think that's because that's the platform that, like, are you talking about like with a pastor? Because a pastor has this built-in platform that people are showing up to listen. I tell Joe this. We talk about this consistently. Is I'm like, it still shocks me that people show up to listen to either one of us just talk. That's insane.
It's weird.
It's bizarre. Like they care what we have to say. That makes no sense.
Well, I
And
think it's a mixture of that, and they're seeking truth. They're seeking understanding of God's word.
well,
So it is
50% of the time they're barking up the wrong tree.
and that's the funny part is
More like 90, actually.
yeah, nowadays, yeah.
so it's kind of like, with us leading worship, it's like they're not coming to hear me sing. They're coming to worship with us, and God has allowed me and experiences and whatever talents to glorify him.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of, and it is kind of humbling to be like, they're not here to listen to you, but they are. They're here to listen to you.
You're right, though.
and
The
you're-
more the whole journey for us is how do we just communicate what God is saying through us, and we start to
true.
realize it's not. If we're doing this right, it really isn't us.
Well, that's the
And that's
goal.
what we're going after, right?
And that is the hope, is that it's not about us at all. But back to the point that you feel like it's like I've got this platform now, and hundreds of people are listening to me, and now I can get my opinions across. So instead of where it's like I just want to teach you about Jesus, I want to point you to Jesus. It's like, but I also think, like, let's say abortion. I also think abortion is so wrong that it's like I think that's I hear a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians say that's the number one issue.
One issue voters.
So I'm like, if that's the case, you're just like, it's so important to me that I need to, then this is my platform. So I just naturally start to spread that on my platform, which then you get these people who love that, and they're like, thank you. Now talk about the border security or something like, and you're like, so you just become uber political all of a sudden. I don't know.
And I get there's enough in politics that you can derive moral sides to it.
Yeah.
But then there's a bunch of things that now all of a sudden it's like now everything's a moral issue. And you're like, well, wait a second. Like trying to argue for the morality of Trump versus Kamala Harris, they're both terrible.
lesser of two evils.
In their lives, they both have
Dude.
done horrible things.
I was just talking to some people at church on Sunday who are just fed up with it and can't believe it. And I'm like, I agree, but I said, as long as we're not saying like this one's great and this one's bad.
Yeah.
And luckily they were like, oh no, we're just talking about the policies that we care about line up here and not here. And I go, oh, then that's that's the stance I think you kind of need to have.
Yeah. Right.
Just again, to be intellectually honest of just.
I think there are people very disappointed that we don't talk more politics. Not in our church, people outside of our church.
No. People in our church too. I hear
Don't
it.
talk more politics from the pulpit.
I hear it not infrequently. I hear somebody say like, "Why aren't you praying for this or talking about this?" And I'm like, and I always feel bad because I'm like, I totally have an opinion on that topic, but that's not. I'm not a professional at that.
Everybody
That's not what I'm an
references John the Baptist and King Herod calling him out for his moral issues. The one difference, and again, but Jesus doesn't. That's an argument for science. But he had plenty of opportunity to criticize Rome. He does not. Which was another reason why they didn't think he was going to be the Messiah, because they thought he'd overthrow Rome.
Right.
Paul talking about to pray for your leaders, that God has installed the government of an oppressive government over his specific people, Israel. But what people forget about John the Baptist is literally standing on the line of the Old Testament and New Testament prophets. He's literally the last true kind of prophet of an Old Testament ilk in a New Testament expression. So guess what the Old Testament prophets did? They called out the kings.
Yes, always. Yeah,
So John the Baptist is literally the last one making making a way in the desert and the wilderness.
In the wilderness,
You know, the Elijah to come, making the way for the Lord. So
Right.
the total shift, we see the handoff from that Old Testament prophet John
Yeah.
to Jesus. And so whenever people say that, and I've been guilty of it. And whenever I would say, I'm like, not really the same, because then from that point forward, Jesus' ministry with the government is so different. And then Paul, who's not afraid, and Peter, who's not afraid to call out leadership, does the opposite.
Right.
It's very interesting.
I just heard a quick side note because this was so interesting to me. I just heard a theologian, brilliant theologian, talk about how John the Baptist actually never, and I'm like, I gotta look into this deeper, but never actually endorsed Jesus as the Messiah. And that's why that even after John the Baptist stepped aside, John the Baptist still had disciples that didn't convert over to Jesus, to be Jesus'
The one who comes after me, whose sandals I'm not worthy to
Oh,
untie.
no. That dude, I thought, you're insane that he made it so clear, but he goes, and he even said, he goes, check it out. He never says it, and I'm like, that can't be
That
true.
can't be the only way to
No,
look at it,
there's
though.
no way.
But
It can't be the only way to say is that.
to his point, he says it's very interesting that, because if he had done it the way that we think, he would have been like, I don't have disciples anymore, only be Jesus' disciple.
Yeah.
And there were disciples that stuck with John the Baptist.
Except
and
for John
remained.
the Baptist's disciples went with him, and John was okay with that. And then the other ones
But
were.
not all of them is his point.
Yeah. I could see, I mean, like, as opposed to it's not like John didn't have his own ministry.
Sure.
that
That's
he
what I was
doing.
thinking too. I was like, just because that would be like saying that if you're not a monk today and you actually go to a church and have
Yeah.
a pastor, that you're not. So I
John's-
was intrigued by it.
John's ministry was a ministry of repentance. And so John's ministry, even if he doesn't straight out say, although John's disciples come to Jesus and says, are you the one I've been waiting for?
Right.
And then
Yeah.
Jesus says, well, tell them this, that the gospel is preached and that the sick are healed and the blind receive sight, to basically answer the question like, yes. And they're cousins. This is a very funny
know.
dynamic here.
Anyway, I just thought
Which
it was
is
super interesting.
Which is
that you
interesting
mentioned
though,
that.
because then you look at the words of Jesus, and he endorsed John's the Baptist's ministry.
Yeah, which
You know,
sounds like
the
Jesus.
parable of sending the servant to the vineyard. I forget it. I forget the parable.
Oh yeah.
The one
and
who
the
came
different
before
workers.
me,
Yeah,
the different workers,
yeah.
and they killed them, and it's like
crazy.
That's what you
That
guys
is
did.
a crazy story, by the way.
Yeah, which is like so. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I'd have
What
to.
do
read
we
into
do with
that.
the John baptizing Jesus and seeing the dove light upon him?
I know,
after his
right?
baptism? I don't.
spirit like a
I
dove.
don't know what else you would say other than him having to be like, "This is the Messiah."
So, and I struggle with that on a lot of things.
Okay.
That it was just that that endorsement.
because John says, "I must
concept.
become lesser, so he can
Right.
become greater." What do you do with that?
I agree.
Those are all endorsement things.
The endorsement concept I've heard a lot, even in politics. We're just talking about that. It's like, I want to hear those exact words. And I was like, first of all, no. Nobody has to bow down to what you want.
want.
Right.
I'm always like, and if you don't see that as an endorsement, what do I care?
Right.
Yeah.
This isn't about John the Baptist. It's, do you believe that Jesus is the Christ or not? Period. I don't give a rip who endorsed him or who didn't.
Do you mean the 9 million theologians that have looked at this since then are like,
Right.
no.
Right.
The become lesser and greater is good enough for me.
Right.
And the baptism and visually seeing the, Holy
baptism
Spirit.
alone is a pretty.
This is my son
Light
with
upon
whom
him.
I'm well pleased.
Yeah,
it's like
this is crazy.
how is he not endorsing him? I don't know. I'd have
anyway.
to look. That's intriguing though.
I just thought it was weird because this guy, before he said that, he was one of the most brilliant men I'd ever heard speak on topics, and I was just
And
blown
he
away
lost
by him. And then he said that, and I'm like,
That's like the street preachers like, did you know that John never literally endorsed Jesus? I'm like,
Like,
okay.
All right. Have a good
Come
day, sir.
on.
and again, you're right. And then it's like, you mean he didn't say those words? I endorse him as the Messiah.
I know, right?
I don't care.
Did they do that in that
Exactly.
culture?
Those words
Is
are
that-
never written.
Exactly.
Is that how? Is that how? Is that how
no
the
one said
mantle is
that.
passed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
So okay.
I got a would you rather?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
would you rather's.
Would you rather endure a zombie apocalypse with unlimited weapons, ammo, and vehicles, or unlimited food and safe lodging?
Oh.
What qualifies safe lodging?
You just can go to sleep at night. You're gonna be fine.
Weapons involves safety involves weapons.
No. Lodging and you don't need weapons. Your lodging is safe enough. No zombies are getting to you.
Yeah, that's a more difficult one than I thought.
I mean, the reality is one works and one's more fun. One actually makes you survive,
It's-
and
it's
one is
sadly
more
true.
fun.
It's a personality question for
yeah,
sure.
it might. Easy knee jerk was the
Question:
weapons, but then I went,
unlimited weapons, ammo, and vehicles. What if I construct lodging of the unlimited vehicles.
Well, that's what I feel like with the unlimited weapons, you can create unlimited safety.
I create like
That's
an
my
armor.
thought.
Good.
Except for the food part.
These are handheld weapons, by the way. These are not like you're not creating.
How else do you hold a weapon?
turrets? I'm saying you're not
No,
getting
I
turrets.
want turrets. I absolutely
there's
want
no turrets.
unmanned
No,
motion
that's the- no,
You
turrets.
still
these-
hold a turret with your.
No. This is all you. These are.
Oh,
these
like
are,
auto turrets.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, and the vehicles also are not some sort of tanks. They're just vehicles so you can get around
No,
and you
that's-
move about.
Bottom
Like
line-
a moped.
No,
my
you can
my
get a car.
vehicle is a warship where I just hang out on a
Sure.
on
You
a
have no
warship.
food out there. You're starving. You got
I've always thought.
Ton of food.
No, you are getting what's the disease you get when you only eat fish?
Scurvy.
You're getting scurvy
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, and by the way, you're going to have to go to land to get fruit at some point.
Yeah, you totally are. Shoot. I feel like I feel like the safety and lodging is the right answer. Mm-hmm. I do. I feel like it is.
There's no way it's not the right answer.
Absolutely.
It's just not
It is the right
fun
answer.
It's just not.
But I'm trying to rationalize the weapons, ammo, and vehicles because I could, if I have unlimited, I could acquire an army of people, and then we take every other lodging that we.
So that's my thing is that I feel like, but I kind of feel like with either one of them, you can get the other one.
Oh, you could trade food for weapons, but
Or,
as soon
or
as
just get taken over by humans.
Well,
that's what I'm thinking
that's
about.
the
What's
bummer.
getting taken
I'm
over?
thinking more about humans and zombies.
Lodging.
The lodging.
No, it's impenetrable. It's
Okay,
safe.
so you are nothing can touch
But
you.
you never leave.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the right.
got it?
That's the right answer by far. It's absolutely
Can it
the
be
right answer.
a safe resort lodging, like just a huge resort?
Yeah, oh no, 100%. Like it's fun.
it's kind of
You're down in
like an
what's it
island
called?
resort.
Ishkaret, the
What did you
resort
call
down
it?
in Mexico.
It's like what
That's
is
what
it?
it is.
A quiet place when there's the island.
It's the Loretto
they all
Chapel.
experienced
I'm in
it.
the
They all
chapel
experienced it.
on the second story.
Yes.
No one can get me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
I'm still choosing weapons, ammo, and vehicles,
You
man.
are, aren't
It's
you?
a video
It's-
game in your
come
mind.
on.
No, you are. It is a video game.
It's a video game in your mind. No way. I'm doing the lodging and food.
Yeah, I have the weapons.
And you're never gonna sleep because I'm just shooting my guns all night at you.
And I'm thinking,
totally safe.
I'm just thinking along like he's gonna die at some point.
Yeah, the weapons get old very quickly.
Yeah.
Having to constantly fight
It's
to
the
survive.
vehicles that's selling it for me.
No, it's. I mean, it's. But again, that feels like it gets old. Whereas if
Even if you're in
I
a
have,
semi and 1,000 zombies, like there's enough zombies that can
oh
stop
yeah,
a semi.
100%.
Yeah.
And I've got this gorgeous
A moose could stop us.
lakeside property where I'm just like relaxing.
And you know
all
the
day.
rest of the world is burning.
Not lakeside. You'd be floating in the middle of the lake. It's been my theory ever since zombies have become a thing.
That's
like,
why the warship. I've always thought that. Yeah, the war. Yeah.
If you're out in the middle of the body of water, or
Ships the wind.
or like if you
yeah.
built on the top of skyscrapers, like lodging and zip lining across.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know they're coming out with a new. What's the Will Smith zombie movie?
Oh, Last Man on Earth.
I Am
No.
Legend.
I Am
I Am Legend.
yes.
They're coming out with a 2.
Sorry, the book is called The Last Man on Earth. That's
yeah.
the movie's I Am
They're
Legend.
doing a. They're
but
doing
he
a.
died.
Did he?
Yes.
No.
Hold on.
He had a grenade.
Did
and
he?
he said, "Take my dog out of your mouth," and then he, and then
The zombie's like.
and then he runs into it. They're just
Bottom line
making-
is they're coming out with a 2.
I like it.
I
like
do too.
I love it. I mean, it's gonna be fun. I can't really have a basis of like it better be good writing because he already died. So
All
they're
right.
starting off with
Maybe
bad
he didn't.
writing.
All right.
Sorry, next one. Got another one?
Wait, what did you guys? You chose lodging.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
Weapons, man.
Yeah.
Weapons sound fun, but after a couple weeks of having to survive like that,
If I had
It's not
all
fun anymore.
unlimited
time?
vehicles, I'm just blocking your windows with all my vehicles just to be a jerk.
you can't get to my windows.
I don't even know you exist, dude.
Yeah, you're so far out of my world.
Yeah, I don't even know what's
As
going
you're
on.
trying to park the vehicle, zombies are attacking you.
Just so you know, I don't even know there's a zombie apocalypse happening at that point.
No, I'm jet skiing.
You're not.
I'm out on my lake. I've got a boat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm having a ball. Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry. Have fun.
I'm still shooting at you while you're. Jet
You are,
skiing.
yeah. And they're not going to reach me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a bulletproof jet ski or something.
Exactly.
That's fun. Okay. Would you rather spend the rest of your life working with the animals at SeaWorld or at a zoo?
Oh. Neither?
I don't want to spend the rest of my life working with animals.
Neither. I mean, animals are cool.
So the rest of your career life
That's it.
at SeaWorld or at a zoo?
Do I get to choose any occupation in those places?
Yes.
SeaWorld,
You doing the killer whale trainer?
100%. They're launching me in the air. I'm flipping around. Sounds super fun to me.
And on a bad day, you die.
Yeah.
That's funny. No, I'm with him, but it's the Dolphins because I'm not dying with the Dolphins.
Dolphins are
Dolphins
so fun.
are. Well, I'm not going to say it on here.
Good. That is smart. Dolphins and penguins, let's not talk about
Yeah, that's right.
the reality
I
of
get
them.
it. I get it.
Yeah.
No, I'd choose zoo because the land otters are the most adorable animal I've ever seen.
Is there a cuter creature on planet Earth?
I don't think so.
The little river otter things couldn't be cuter. That is the cutest creature imaginable.
In these two scenarios, just like think about it. What animal is least likely to bite you? Just think in your mind, like I'm working here. What's not going to bite me?
Nothing. Everything bites.
Everything bites.
Dolphins don't really bite.
Ooh, buddy.
They don't. They don't really bite. That's not really their thing.
I feel like dolphins.
I know what else they do. I'm just telling you. I said bite.
Dolphins seem safe.
Just telling you. That's
Seems
even
strange.
even the land otter you go to touch it, it bites you.
If I worked at
Stupid.
SeaWorld, man, it's just the idea of water.
You scared of water?
I'm scared of drowning. I don't want to drown. I don't
Well, I
want
mean,
to
nobody
want
wants
to
to
be pulled
drown.
under by an animal.
Everyone should be scared of water. Should be.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I would work
weird
the
when
retail
people
store.
aren't.
I would just work the retail store at SeaWorld if I had to choose.
Swimming with dolphins. I swam with dolphins in Hawaii. That is one of the
sea
most
turtles-
fun things ever.
Do they have sea turtles?
Well, you can't interact with them in Hawaii. It's illegal
He
to,
means
to
at
touch
he means
them.
at SeaWorld.
Like at SeaWorld, do they have them there?
No. I don't think so. They don't do
I haven't been
anything.
to SeaWorld in years.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think they do anything because usually SeaWorld isn't it usually performance stuff, right? Or they have just observations.
There's observation stuff
Okay.
too.
Actually, if they have one of those drop rides, you know
Oh yeah.
I've watched videos of guys who like, all right, now count 3, 2, and then like at 2 they drop them.
My favorite.
That seems
There's
like
a
so much
video
fun.
compilation of a guy who goes, "All right, guys, are you all right? Oh, you know what? Hang on, this thing's broken. Oh, you know what? We might have to get you guys." And he walks away. He hits the button and walks away, and there's like a 2-second
Oh, the
delay.
best. The whole
And he tells them
it
like,
seems like so much fun.
"This thing is broken. I gotta."
Oh, your strap isn't on.
And he does like, "All right, I'll come and unbuckle you," and starts to like walk away, and then they drop.
The screaming.
It looks like I'm like, that's the job I want.
Yeah.
You'd go home so entertained
Yes.
every
That's why
single
I would
day.
say SeaWorld because they don't have rides at the zoo.
I picked these because they both sound like awful jobs. So but it might be SeaWorld with dolphins.
It's true.
They both sound terrible.
My family, we go to the zoo a lot,
I'll pay for your counseling.
right? We go to the zoo like a lot. Like we have season passes, and so to me, I'm like working at the zoo doesn't seem that
What's
much
that
fun.
bear that looks not like anything but a person in a suit?
The sloth bear,
The sloth bear.
Sloth
that is
bears.
a funky.
hilarious.
The way his neck, like,
yeah,
The zoo feels like everything wants to bite me. That's my thought. That's what I want to
I think so. They prowl a
SeaWorld
lot.
is the same, but they're underwater and you can't see them.
Yeah, the tiger at the zoo. They have that new exhibit, the new Asian part of the zoo, and they have that,
Dude, it's so
that Siberian
cool.
tiger. That tiger
Is it white?
No, it's a
It's a
tiger
Bengal
colored.
tiger. Yeah.
It's so big and scary, and it walks around. I think they have it mic'd because it's got a growl that you're just like, oh, that thing. And it stalked a little girl last time I was there. The little girl started running around, and it hunkered down, and it did that like it got in haunches, hid behind a bush,
Oh, no.
and then would like kind of dart out when she'd come close. It would, but then hide back, and I'm like, oh, that thing wants to eat your daughter. Like it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. It was amazing.
It's a beautiful creature, though.
Oh,
but
they're
I'd still
so
work
fun.
with the otters.
That's a big piece of steak.
The fact
that's
I could
all
put a
it's
sweater
looking at.
on and then be like, all right, otters, whoop, 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 and then just walk around.
It would be really fun.
Dude, it'd be great.
You'd hate
Yeah,
it.
I wouldn't be underwater, though.
All right.
he's definitely scared of water.
On that
That's what
note,
we found.
thanks for joining us on You Won't Hate It. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Floyd.